Hey guys, Tim here. Wanted to talk to you today about setting your inner monitor mix. Now, here at the church, we use a board called the Behringer X32. It's an all-digital board, and one really cool thing about it is that we can download an app for it, either Android or iOS, that allows us to individually control our monitor mixes. Now, right here, of course, I'm using the iOS app. The Android one does look a bit different. It's still pretty much the same setup. You could just ask any one of us any question that you have on that, but it pretty much works in the exact same way. Now, when you open up the app, first thing you're going to be asked for is to enter the IP address, and for that, just ask whoever is the sound tech or myself, any of the leaders, what the IP address is. For the most part, it stays the same. Every now and then, if we have an issue with that specific IP, we'll change it to something different. So just ask us if it's not working. Once you do that, you will hit the connect button right here. As you see, I'm already connected. It'll say that it's trying to connect. It'll give you a little green light right there and you're good to go. Once you're done with that, you just press done in the upper right hand corner, and this will probably be the first thing that you see. Now, it's important to know what pack you are, but it's pretty simple to figure out. For instance, this is whoever's using red microphone, they would have the red pack. To change it, up top where it shows the red microphone, you will just press on that and it'll bring up a list of all the available channels that are there. So let's say that for this week I was the keys player, and I of course want to set my mix for that. So I just come down, I press keys, I hit done, and now it's changed me over to keys. Now with this first page right here, this is your overall master volume. So say you've already got your mix set perfectly. If you're wired in, maybe the volume on the pack itself is kind of hard to get to, and you just want to bring the overall volume of your entire mix up or down. That's what this is. This is just your master bus volume. For the most part, we'll keep it right there at unity, but that's up to you to decide. Now comes the time of actually setting your inner monitor mix. So what I'm doing is I'm turning my phone on its side right now. Let this figure it out a little bit. There you go. And now, these are all of our channels. You can swipe left and right and it'll take you through everything that we have. When you move things in this view, it does not change the front of house. It only changes what is in your ears. So if I needed some kick drum, I would just bring that up to what I consider a good level is. And I just pick whatever I want to be in there. If I was on keys this week, of course, I would want keys to be pretty high up in my ears. Now when it comes to actually mixing these to a good mix, takes a bit of just practice, trial and error. There's really no such thing as a perfect mix because everyone's ears are different and everyone's specific inner monitors are going to be different from one another. There is something that I like to recommend though. There's a kind of a good basic mix that will get anyone by. I'm kind of making this with the more basic inner monitors in mind. Say if you just have a regular set of headphones, not really the actual inner monitors. That's kind of what I'm going off of right here. If you do have a higher end model, then you can of course add in more than what I'm showing you. Now on the specific stage, of course we run things pretty hot in terms of bass and sub frequencies. We also have the subs right up against the stage. So because of that, you really aren't going to need that much kick drum in your ears. In fact, drums in general are pretty loud on the stage itself. So if you don't have something that completely isolates you from all external noise, you really won't have to put a lot of the drums in there. I do like putting a bit of the overhead and hi-hats in my ears. Main reason being is that during some of the quieter songs, it may be the drums that count us off with just a couple hits on the ride cymbal. Well, if you have something in your ears that are blocking that out, you won't know when to come in. Whereas having this overhead right here is what will put that actually in your ears. At the same time, you can't go too loud though, because then once the drummer goes pretty big, you'll have nothing but cymbals in your ear. Coming over here to the instruments, we like to normally run with 2 guitars. Sometimes it's only 1. If you're a vocalist, I suggest picking just one of the 2 guitars that's going, specifically the lead guitar. You really just want them up in your ears enough to where you know when they're starting songs, you can follow them on a rhythm point. We'll pretend that for this specific service, guitar 1 is the one that happens to be the lead guitar. So I'll get them up in my ears. Even if we had a second guitarist, if I was using just some more basic headphones, I wouldn't even worry about the second guitarist, just because it's not really important in terms of the main mix. For bass, same thing as the drums. You're going to feel a lot of that on the stage itself. So maybe a little bit if you want just a bit of the bass clarity, but I wouldn't really try and get that really too much in your ears. If you don't have ears that can handle that bass, right away it's going to make everything sound completely muddy and muffled. And you may not even realize that it's that. Instead, you'll just end up thinking, man, I can't hear anything at all. I better turn it up. And in reality, all you're doing is you're ruining your headphones, and you're going to make things really loud in your ears. Next, we have the main loop and the bass loop. We are pretty track heavy here. Some songs, they may actually carry the whole song. Other songs, it may just be a small supplement, maybe just a pad in the background. I would suggest, some of the main loops so you know what's going on with the song. I really wouldn't worry too much about the bass loop. That's mainly there just to carry maybe some like techno drums, maybe a really, really low octave synth bass that a regular bass guitar can't hit. So a lot of headphones won't really be able to accurately recreate that anyway. Keys. If you're a vocalist, I'd say it depends on what the set list is. If we're doing, say we're doing a song like Oceans, well that song just has tons of piano in it, so of course you want keys in your ears. Say we're doing a set list to where almost the entire set is guitar driven, really not that much keys going on. I'd make sure that it's there for things like prayer time so you know that things are playing, but if it weren't for that, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. If you're a vocalist, this is where things get really, really important. Let's pretend that, yes, I'm on keys, but I also happen to be singing as with the blue mic. So, of course, I need to be able to hear myself. So I'm going to have that, probably right around unity. You don't want to try and do too much up here because now you're boosting things instead of just keeping it where it's at. So we'll put that right at unity. So for this set, say that I am leading one song and singing harmony on all the other ones. Well, when I'm leading a song, of course, I need to be able to hear myself over everyone else. I need to know where I'm at. So we're going to start kind of bringing up these vocals a bit. These are the other 3 vocal microphones. And I kind of like to keep them all around the same level. Reason being is that this way I know that they're there, but then when I'm singing lead on my song, it's not overpowering what I'm doing. At the same time, though, you have to be able to know what they're doing for songs that they are singing lead on, because you have to be able to match up to their vocal tone and their vocal pitch to make sure that your harmonies are on point. So it's one of those, it's a balancing game. You want to make sure that you don't have too much of them, but you can't not hear them at all once you start singing, because then you don't know what you're singing to. My advice to where, say we have a set where we have 4 vocalists with mics on stage, but only 3 of them are singing actually lead on a song. Let's pretend that whoever's on yellow isn't leading a song that week. They're going to be a BGV for the entire week. I would completely cut them out. All it is just going to be there to muddy out that mix, and in terms of you actually having to hit pitch, it doesn't really matter. As far as the question, well, how do I know what part they're singing? That's stuff that should be figured out beforehand, not during the actual set itself. That's what I recommend for that. Also over here all the way to the left you see PZ's mic. I do always recommend having that somewhat up so that when he comes up to speak, you know where he's at. You don't have to keep one ear out. Going on to the next page, there's only 3 things on here. The first one is the crowd mic. If you ever take a look at our specific stage here at Rev and look to the left over where the key setup normally is, you'll see this random mic on a stage all the way in the corner pointing out. That's a shotgun mic that does nothing but capture the crowd. It captures the ambience of the room. That is incredible to have in your ears so you don't feel so isolated from everyone. I keep it in my ears at all times, and it's amazing, especially when times when I challenge the congregation to sing out and I stop singing. I can hear what they're doing and actively gauge what I need the next step to be. So I always keep the crowd mic in there. It's also great to add things like drum ambience, just something to make it feel like you're not so enclosed. Stage talkback is a very important mic to have up in your ears. It's something that is also over in that area. Whoever the MD is will have that as an ability to communicate with the band at all times. This is a microphone that does not go out into the house. It only goes to our in-ears. Very important for times when we have to call an audible and change up a song, or we may not have the computer telling us where to go. So always keep stage talkback up in your ears. Always keep it at a good volume as well, because if you think about it, there are some times when the band is very quiet that say I'm the MD for the week. When I go to talk into that mic, I have to talk at such a low volume that the people on the front row right in front of me can't hear that I'm actually talking there, because that would distract from whoever's on stage is saying something. So you have to make sure it's a good volume to where even if I'm talking quietly, it still comes through in your ears. Then comes one of the most important things, the click track. This click track carries not just the click that keeps us on beat, but it also carries all of our cues. We use a program called Ableton Live, which I'll explain in another video, that not only carries the click and has all of our loops, but a lot of our songs also have vocal cues. So it'll tell us, when to go into the intro, when to go into the verse. It's good to not hold on to it too much as a clutch, but it's great to have during those moments when you get so into the music that you kind of lose yourself for a second and go, wait, what are we going into next? Then it'll quickly throw, hey, it's verse 2. So the click track is very important to have in your ears. At the same time, you don't want to have that blaring in your ears, because one, it'll overpower everything you're doing. It'll kind of make you feel disconnected from the music. But the main thing is that if you have this cranked in your ears and you don't have fully isolated in-ear monitors like customs, then that means that the people in the congregation can actually hear that click come through your earbuds, and it'll carry all the way into the audience, and we don't really want that. It is more of a high-pitched ting. That way it even if you don't have it that loud, you can still hear it. So really be mindful of that. What I recommend is once we start the click, we always start almost every rehearsal with myself or whoever's the MD starting the click just to test the levels. Pull both your ears out, let them hang on your shoulders, and if you can hear it even right there loud and clear while they're not in your ears, that means that the people on the first couple rows can hear it as well if you pull an ear out. So be mindful of that volume. This page you don't really have to worry about. This is all things that you actually probably don't want in your ears, such as the house music, things that may continue to play even if they pull it down the house. So I would keep all these down. And then this last row are the effects. What I personally do in my ears, especially when I'm a vocalist, is I like to put a little bit of these first two effects in here. These are reverbs. Also, because they are chained, if I just touch one of the faders, it moves 2 faders at a time because they're stereo effects. I keep just a little bit in there so that if I'm a vocalist and I have both my ears in, I don't feel like it's super dry in my ears. It just adds a little bit of ambience, makes it feel a little bit more lively. But at the same time, you don't want to do too much because then it just drowns everything out. So that's pretty much how you set all of these. Now there's even more features in this app that make it super, super incredible. There's ways to link tons of instruments together, link vocalists together. Really great to have, but I'm not going to go too much into it because that's stuff that we haven't really set up and used that much here, and we're not really missing anything without it. Like always, you can always ask myself a question, any of the other MDs, just really anyone who's been here a while. We've used this for quite a bit, and we've got a good grasp on it. So hopefully this helps you out a bit. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.